June strikes shattered Iran's nuclear program. Nearly 22,000 centrifuges at Fordow, Natanz and Isfahan destroyed in Operation Midnight Hammer. The IAEA now says Tehran has no identifiable route to weapons-grade uranium for the first time in 15 years. But with inspectors locked out, Europe threatening snapback sanctions, and Iran vowing retaliation if pressure mounts, the nuclear standoff enters a new, unpredictable phase. Nearly 22,000 Iranian gas centrifuges at Fordow, Natanz and Isfahan were reportedly knocked out in the June strikes, leaving no identifiable route to weapon-grade output at those plants. The Institute for Science and International Security, a Washington-based think tank, stated, citing the UN nuclear watchdog International Atomic Energy Agency's quarterly reports. The report, prepared under the leadership of nuclear expert David Albright, stated,
"The attacks destroyed or made all of Iran's installed centrifuges inoperative at Iran's 3 enrichment sites and severely damaged Iran's ability to manufacture centrifuges and uranium hexafluoride feedstock. Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan held enriched uranium stocks before the strikes, but the IAEA has lost on-site visibility since inspectors withdrew for safety reasons in late June, and Iran later suspended cooperation."
The IAEA's reporting showed Iran's stock of uranium enriched up to 60% U-235 reached 449 kilograms uranium mass on the eve of the June 13th bombardment, with additional inventories of 20%, 5% and up to 2% material also on hand. The agency said the 60% stockpile, considered highly enriched uranium, requires verification every 30 days under standard safeguards practice, and that its verification is overdue because inspectors have not had access for more than 2.5 months. IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi told the agency's Board of Governors on September 8th that Iran's new domestic law curbing access may create obligations domestically, but it cannot do so for the IAEA.
Progress has been made. It is my sincere hope that within the next few days, it will be possible to come to a successful conclusion of these discussions in order to facilitate the resumption, the full resumption of our indispensable work with Iran.
Grossi added that Iran's NPT safeguards agreement remains in force and that inspection work must fully resume without delay.
The full implementation of the rights and obligations of the agency and Iran under Iran's NPT safeguards agreement is indispensable to paving the way towards real improvement in the overall situation. There is still time, but not much. Always enough when there is good faith and a clear sense of responsibility.
The Institute for Science and International Security said the IAEA reported Iran was in the process of declaring a new Isfahan fuel enrichment plant at the nuclear reactors fuel company site before the war. The think tank assessed the IFAP to be inside Isfahan's mountain tunnel complex and said US strikes destroyed tunnel entrances and ventilation systems. While Iran has restored limited access to at least one portal, the plant does not appear to be ready for operations. The IAEA planned a design information visit on June 13th but cancelled it as the attacks began. Before the strikes, the IAEA counted 125 full-sized cascades at the 3 declared enrichment plants, totaling more than 20,000 IR-1, IR-2, IR-4 and IR-6 machines. The Institute for Science and International Security estimated the installed total was closer to 22,000, including about 14,700 advanced centrifuges. Since June 13th, the IAEA said it has received no nuclear material accountancy reports, no updated design information questionnaires, and has had no access to safeguarded sites other than the Bushehr nuclear power plant. Meanwhile, a New York Post report citing experts says that Iran, for the first time in 15 years, has no path to building nuclear weapons, crediting President Donald Trump's June strikes on the country's key enrichment sites with dismantling Tehran's weapons program. The report, based on the assessment led by David Albright, a former inspector for the International Atomic Energy Agency, stated,
"For the first time in over 15 years, no breakout estimate to weapons-grade uranium is included in our IAEA reports. Iran has no identifiable route to produce weapons-grade uranium in its centrifuge plants."
The June strikes followed Israel's 12-day military campaign against Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Trump then authorized Operation Midnight Hammer, deploying 14 massive ordnance penetrators against fortified sites, including the Fordow enrichment center, long considered beyond Israel's reach. Still, the report acknowledged uncertainties about whether any centrifuges survived outside the targeted sites or whether Iran retained usable enriched uranium. The researchers said, calculating a breakout time would require unsubstantiated speculation. Iran and the UN nuclear watchdog have agreed to resume cooperation, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araqi said on September 9th, warning that any move to reimpose UN sanctions would halt the practical steps set out in the deal.
I shall stress that in case of any hostile act against my country, and in the event of reimposition of terminated United Nations Security Council resolutions, Iran will regard these practical steps as terminated.
Iran passed a law after the attacks suspending cooperation with the IAEA and saying any inspections had to be approved by its Supreme National Security Council. Iran's state media quotes Iraqi's statement saying,
"I held the final round of negotiations to finalize an understanding on how to implement Iran's safeguards obligations in light of developments resulting from illegal actions against Iran's nuclear facilities, and we succeeded in finalizing it."
UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi described the agreement as an important step in the right direction.
This is a step in the right direction. This is a door we are opening. And of course, there are many things that still need to happen. We have to implement it in good faith. Others around the world can help us. And I am sure that they will do right that.
The Iranian foreign minister said the agreement signed in Cairo fully complies with the law passed by Iran's parliament after the US and Israeli attacks. Talks take place against the backdrop of Europe's top three powers, having initiated a 30-day process on August 28th to reimpose sanctions on Iran. The curbs were lifted under a 2015 nuclear deal between Iran and major powers that unraveled after President Donald Trump pulled the United States out of it in 2018. Those three powers, France, Britain and Germany, known as the E3, have said they will go ahead with reimposing sanctions under the so-called snapback process unless IAEA inspections fully resume in Iran and Tehran accounts for its large stock of near-weapons-grade uranium and resumes nuclear talks with the United States.